is facing. Maybe you really want to help, but feel like you've got nothing to offer. Or you've gone radio silent like a lot of us on social for fear of saying the wrong thing. Well, today we're going to be talking all about, when it comes to using social media for your business, how to do it during a crisis. So very excited. I'm Jeff C. of Manly Pinterest Tips here, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Elisa Meredith. And today's guest is Brooke Sellis, one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. So very excited for the show. Elisa, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. You know, this is going to be a good topic because there's been a lot of stuff out on the socials, you know, kind of like, don't do this, do this. So we're going to talk about all that today. And I kind of go square in the middle. So if you don't know who Brooke is, she is CEO and co-founder of B Squared Media, where their motto is think conversation, not campaign. She's also an equestrian and co-host with Mark Schaefer of the Marketing Companion podcast, Elisa's favorite business podcast in the whole wide world. What about our podcast, Elisa? Come on. We have one too, remember? Jeez, okay.
Yeah, but there's a lot less singing on ours.
Oh, that's very true. We don't want to do that. Don't bring that into the show. So we are so happy to have you guys all on. If you have questions during the day, we'd love to interact with you and bring those up on the screen. So just add those down below. And we'd also, if you would like to sprinkle the love of this broadcast across all the socials, that helps us out as well. So Elisa, I'll let you kind of take it away.
Yeah, and I think it's just important to note that we're entering that time of year when Jeff turns his air conditioner off for the show, and we get to see how red his face
I will get red.
By the end of the show.
Yes.
So if he looks like he's nervously sweating, he's just hot.
I'm drinking heavily is what I'm doing during the show. You're not looking. That's what it is. Yeah.
I mean, aren't we all right now?
Right. Yeah.
Anyway. So, okay, Brooke. The age-old question. Bad things happen every day, unfortunately. So how do we know? Like, what's your criteria when we're thinking about crisis? Like, when do we need to respond? When is it okay to be business as usual? Like, how do you determine that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think the number one problem that I think a lot of brands are facing right now is they don't have a process for these types of situations. And that would be my number one piece of advice, is create a process. If you haven't, now would be the time. And our process, when we talk to our clients, looks something like this. If the situation, whatever it may be, affects our community, or if it affects society as a whole, we need to go ahead and push the pause button on our content and do an audit, do kind of an understanding of what we have coming up, what needs to be taken out, what needs to keep going out, what needs to maybe be revamped, and then, of course, what needs to be added to address the current situation.
Very cool.
Yeah.
At least I want to bring up
we
some.
Did that. Go ahead.
You go ahead. Say. You go say it. I'll wait.
Okay. So we did that at Tailwind, and it kind of resulted in a little bit of radio silence for a while, just because we realized that some of the stuff we had planned to send out would not come across well at this point. Would have been fine.
And I think that's okay. It's okay to go on pause. I think, Jeff said he's kind of in the middle, and I think I'm kind of with Jeff. It's okay to go on pause, but my point of view is do not stay on pause. Now would not be the time to stay on pause. Not when we see all of these engagements spiking and people's time spent online spiking. So don't stay on pause. It's okay to go on pause, but don't stay there.
Yeah. And don't you think, we'll talk about this later, but don't you think that, don't go on pause, but your messaging shouldn't stay the same? I mean, don't you think we've got to really, because I've seen some people who they just started up their Instagram ads or their Facebook ads again. And I'm like, whoa, that's really inappropriate right now. So what are your thoughts on that, Brooke?
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to come up with that. So we call it specialized copy. So what we've done, again, is when we hit that pause button, and for us, it was about 2 weeks that we went on pause personally. For our clients, it was a different array of time depending on the industry and the client. But we came up with specialized copy for the client that addressed the situation in their words, based on their industry and their brand and their tone and their voice and their style guide and all of those fun things. But we came up with lots of different pieces of copy that was messaging, but also copy to respond to some of those customer care questions or customer service questions that those clients were getting from their customers. And then we come up with lots of different variations. So even though we come up with one answer that's approved, we then may come up with A, B, C, D, E variation of that copy, because we don't want to copy and paste. This is the absolute last time that you want to sound like a robotic brand or just copy and paste the same answer over and over to people. Not a good time to do that ever, but especially now.
Yeah. So, Elisa, I want to bring in some comments we've already got. But before we do that, I want to make sure that you guys know that we do have this downloadable for you guys, this bit.ly/TW Survive and Thrive. That's bit.ly/TW Survive and Thrive. So make sure you go check this out. What exactly is in this download, Elisa?
Yeah, so you want to get it now or 5 minutes ago. I should have reminded us that we need it. Yeah. Because it follows kind of the framework of our discussion, and it has spots for you to take notes about what you're going to do, because Brooke has all this really great information that will make our lives better.
Yeah, so don't forget that. And I want to bring up some comments as well for some people that we've already got on the stream right now. And this is a great question, because they go, hey, this is Nikki says, hey, are you going to have those new April templates on Pinterest Toolkit? Loving those. Thank you for all you do for us. And yes, so make sure you join into the broadcast on Thursday when we are talking with Kate All, and we will have those ready for you. Correct?
Oh, and you know what? Yeah, they're actually up right now. So if you want you want to head on over there, you can get them out. Secret.
I'm
sorry, they're so late. Okay, but like little sidebar. Pinterest was throwing so many great insights at us about the increase in search terms that were coming out that it took a little while to compile them all and figure out which were like super helpful to use in the templates. So the templates this month are all about those trends. And I apologize it took so long, but I think it's going to be worth the wait. Let me know.
Next time, I'm just going to flash up your email address so people can email you when they're angry.
I hate these.
Yes, but we also want to bring, Connie says, hello from France. Thank you. Oh, Karina.
Bonjour.
Yeah, thank you. And Delia says, thank you so much for doing that. Thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. So sorry I had to break in, but I wanted to make sure that we fixed Elisa's mistake.
What would I do without you?
I know. I'm here. Yeah.
Such a good
Yes. All right. Okay. So you send over copy to use, which is really cool. But I imagine like people have processes. So maybe they plan like a week ahead. They have all their socials ready to go. Like what in the overall process of social needs to change right now?
Yeah. So I think A is having that process, right? If you don't have a process or some sort of triage in place already, I would do that. Again, I'll keep giving our client examples, and we work with a lot of different verticals. So we use this process for every vertical, but we kind of assign things as green level, yellow level, red level. And what that means is we try to respond to as much green as we can. Yellow means we may need some help from the client to answer that question. And so this just means if you have someone doing your social media management for you, they need to understand what they can answer on their own with some of those approved pieces of copy, what they may need help with. And what we do for the yellows is we create an FAQ document. So that's where we document every frequently asked question we get. And then we know we can refer back to this document and see how to answer the questions with that approved copy. And then red level for triage means we can't help this person. You know, your CMGR or your community manager may not be able to answer that question because it's like, what's my account balance? Or I need to change a password, or it's something sensitive that person can't answer. You need a process for how you're going to handle those red level responses as well. So who do they send that to? And what's the turnaround time for getting that response? Because what I find in a crisis, right, we're all the same. I'm a consumer too. The biggest thing I want in a crisis is to be heard. I want that communication. So if I get communication that says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you're having this problem, I can't help you. However, I'm going to escalate this to Jeff and he'll be sure to get back to you within 24 hours. Here's his email. I'm done. I'm not complaining anymore because I feel like you've communicated a process to me. And then if I don't hear back in 24 hours, I'm going to be emailing Jeff.
Yeah. And
you should probably give his home number as well. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
address.
So just on a side note, do you have a specific tool that you like to use this for triage? Because I'm always collecting new tools, and I just wonder what you're using to do that process with.
Yeah, so it just depends on the client. Again, we typically use Sprout Social. We're partnered with Sprout, and we do our customer care through Sprout, which allows us to kind of add notes and assign things to people through a workflow for triage. But I mean, really, most social media tools or more of the robust social media tools have the ability to kind of triage. A couple of our clients use tools like, I'm trying to think, there's Meltwater. That we use. And there's also Khoros, which was previously something with an S, maybe Spreadfast it might have been, so you probably recognize that name, but it's been bought out by Khoros, and that's something that another client of ours uses. But there's also things like Zendesk. I mean, if you're really, focusing on customer service, Zendesk could be something that you use.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I want people listening, if you have examples of people who are doing this really well, like if you've seen a really great social message, can you share that with us? And also, if you've seen something, let's just call it a teachable example.
I've got one. I've got one.
You've got one?
Well,
you go first.
Okay, but I want the audience to share theirs too, because I know they're a good.
Yeah, so it's going to take a while for those to roll in. So I wanted to give one. So you guys seen what Zappos has done? So since this has rolled out. So they have rolled it out. So they're just a service to help things. Like you can call them and say, hey, I need some toilet paper. Does anybody know where I can find it? They have people, they've changed their whole customer service to help people, even if you want to talk and are lonely. And it's like full thing on their webpage. It's a huge thing. And I thought they get it. They know how to do it. And I just was like really, really impressed with how quick they moved on that.
I love how customer-centric that is. Or community-centric, right? That's not even customer. It's just society, consumer-centric. Jay Baer's book, Hug Your Haters. I forget the brand now. It might have been Hilton, but it was a brand who was basically doing something similar. They were just answering as many questions as they could. What's the best restaurant in that area where the hotel was located or whatever it was. I'm pretty sure it was a hotel. And they would say, this Italian place is fabulous. People love it. It has a 5-star rating. Or how do I get to, or where's the shuttle bus for? They were answering questions that had nothing to do with the hotel, but in the general area, and they received a ton of business based on being helpful and not selling. So cool. Surprise.
And are they doing that mostly on Twitter, you think?
I think a lot of it happens on Twitter, but I think also you can still do that on other platforms as well. But I think Twitter kind of lends itself to that conversational finding keywords easily and entering those conversations because it has the open API, whereas like Facebook and Instagram could be private depending on the user's profile setting.
So Brooke, that brings up a good point. One of the because of that, they're listening, they're doing social listening. So can you talk about that just a little bit, how important that is for companies just during this time?
So social listening is one of my favorite subjects. And I think if you're not involved in social listening, you should definitely get involved. And social listening can be as easy or as complicated as you need it to be. But essentially, it's taking keywords or keyword phrases and listening for conversations that are happening around those keywords or keyword phrases online or through social media. So I'll give you an example. We have a luxury appliance brand, and we do their US social. It's a high volume brand. So there's a lot of products that they offer, and we put keywords out based on their product offerings. And what we can do is find out where the spikes in conversation are around those certain products, but also we can see spikes in conversation when there's a pain point. We can see the sentiment around that conversation. So positive, neutral, or negative. So we can actually start to see when a little negative thing is bubbling up online about a specific product line, and then go to the client immediately and be like, hey, your customers do not know how to change their coffee filter in this new product that you have. We need to get a video out on the website ASAP to show people, not tell people, how to change the coffee filter in this machine.
That's a great example. Yeah. So we do have some examples.
How would you, I was going to ask, like, if you're not, don't have an agency who's doing the work for you, or you're not an agency and you're just like a regular small business, what are some tools that you might suggest for doing that kind of listening, and what would they look for?
Yeah. So I would say, think about what you have more of. Is it time or money? If you have more time than money, then use Twitter. Twitter's got that open API. You can go through and use kind of a Boolean search on Twitter with keywords and hashtags, and then just create your own spreadsheet. Google Alerts is free. You can set up Google Alerts, just Google Alerts. And then with your email, you'll be able to set up an alert, and you can set up an alert for, here's how I would recommend that process go. We look at keywords starting with the brand, then the industry, and then the competitors. We call it the BIC method, like the pin. So start with your brand keywords, then go to your industry keywords, and then go to your competitor keywords. And then put those free Google Alerts in, and then you'll receive information back. And then you can start to craft your own messages based on what you're seeing the conversation is happening around. You could also, there's, I think, a tool called mention.com. I has a free version. So there's a lot of free ways to do it. It doesn't necessarily have to be paid. You're just going to spend more time because on the paid tools, what they're doing is using artificial intelligence, and that artificial intelligence goes out and listens to all of those conversations happening on all of the platforms and sends you back the information in real time. So it will just happen faster if you have the money, but if you don't fret, because all you need to do is spend the time.
Good points. Yeah. So, and I use Google Alerts all the time. I need to go back and probably fix them because I'm still getting like today on Google Plus, which doesn't really help us.
I really love BuzzSumo for that.
Yeah, that's right.
You can filter things out. Yeah.
So I want to bring up some comments here from this is from Katerina, and she says Elisa, you asked for this, so I'm doing what you said.
I did, please.
I know. So she goes, an insurer in the UK, Cardinal, are giving customers a £25 refund for the last month, which I think is a nice touch. So that's a great example of that. Let's see. Delia says this. She goes, I'm just going to read this. I'm an indie publisher, and all my events have been canceled until September. I'm going to have to shift from public speaking face-to-face sales events to doing much more online. I've considered doing a podcast or Facebook Live videos to fill in that kind of one-on-one contact with readers, but I'm worried about the balance between providing entertaining content and being too pushy about sales. So I have some thoughts about this, but I want to hear and I know Elisa does, but I want to know what Brooke has to say about this.
Yeah. So I think, again, if we're going back to the examples we were talking about earlier, try to be helpful first. So like one of the things that we've done in this client, which is coronavirus or COVID-19, is we started getting a lot of the same questions from our clients about different things. Should I pause my ads? What kind of content should I share? So one of the things that we did is we compiled an FAQ page on our website for our clients where they can go. It's constantly updated with other FAQs that we receive. And we also have a social listening deck that they can download that shows all of the conversations that are happening around the coronavirus. So I think first for you, I would listen. What are some of those frequently asked questions that you get from clients who you've had in the past or current clients who may be wanting to do business with you? And then go on and talk about those questions, answer those questions for people. So you're being helpful, and it will lead to sales, but you're not being salesy, or you're not necessarily selling, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Elisa, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I guess it's more of a follow-up question. Like, how much do we want to talk about the coronavirus or the recession or unemployment? Like, how much of our content should be about what people are dealing with right now, and how much of it should be business as usual or like super positive and uplifting? Like, how do you decide what's a good mix?
That's a really good question.
Yeah. I think I've seen what's working the best for me is when people weave it in. Everybody knows you have to make money, I think now. I mean, Brooke talked about going silent for a while, but we can't be silent forever because we're a business and we need to make money. I mean, that's just the fact of it. But working it in very, very organically and making it very just, you don't, like if you're doing a live show and you're talking about something like this and, and you're given like how to, like, so let's think about teachers. Like a lot of teachers are needing help. And so here's a bunch of plans that I have and and walk them through. Here's what I found to be helpful on, getting my kids to settle down on this Zoom call that we're having to do with, 50 kids. And here are my tips for Zoom, And then organically say, hey, and I've got a PDF if you'd like to download it with all these tips that I just went over. And that can lead to, a sale or something like that. But be very organic and tell people, don't try to trick them that you're going to sign them up for your thing, but be very organic. Especially in this thing about doing a podcast. A podcast, there's something really intimate about being in somebody's ear and being that voice that they start to know, like, and trust. That will lead to sales, but you can't hit them with it like every time. You can't be really pushy, because that right now people are trying to decide if they're going to be able to, stay, keep their kids, at home without them chewing through the furniture, and like, are they going to be able to buy, continue buying Netflix? I mean, there's some real concerns, and
or even paying rent.
Yeah, paying rent and all that. I mean, so there's some real things, but there's a way to do it, and a way to do it that you're helpful and it's really organic, I guess would be my tips for that.
Yeah.
I agree. And it's okay to talk about your business and your products, because like Jeff is saying, like, we have to keep ourselves going and we have to keep the economy going. But I would look at ways that you can enter the conversation organically, as Jeff said. So one of the ways that you can do that is through customer care. If you have people reaching out to you on your social channels, which, by the way, 70% of consumers have reached out to a brand on social for customer service reasons, not because they want to just go look at your fun social media posts. So more than likely you have somebody already reaching out on one of your social channels asking a question about your product. They could be a current customer or a would-be customer. But one of the easiest ways to enter the conversation and keep talking about your business in an organic way is to go answer every single one of those questions that you can find. Use that keyword search in Twitter. Find people asking questions related to your product. If you're a mattress company and they're asking about mattresses or sleep, go in there. Don't sell, but be helpful and join the conversation. Customer care, customer service is one of the easiest ways and one of the best organic ways that's not icky to join the conversation right now.
Right. Karina has a great comment right here that I want to pull up. She goes, I'm a destination wedding personal and business branding and portrait photographer, and I am working on the premise of gently promoting sometimes because people need to dream and plan, but I'm also promoting my imagery with beautiful quotes to inspire. I think the key there is gently promoting, like we've been talking about, organically and being gently and being very sensitive. But I think that's a great idea, Karina. So.
Yeah, there's also a place for those beautiful quotes that inspire too, because I feel like people really, I mean, as much as we have to be realistic, we just sometimes just need to just feel good.
Right.
Yes, that positive. And I follow a couple of wedding planners online. One of them is actually my co-host Mark Schaefer's daughters, and she's sharing old pictures and sharing her favorite memory from that wedding. And it's just so lovely to see, like, people in love getting married and kissing and celebrating right now, because we can't gather and celebrate and do those things. And I think that's such a smart strategy. So you might want to try to, incorporate like Way Back Wednesday or Throwback Thursday, share some of those older photos that you've done, and then talk about your favorite moment from their wedding, and then tag them, because then maybe they'll share it and it'll help you with reach and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Lorena says this. She, Farmers Insurance emailed us that they had automatically only charged everyone half their bills this month to help. So that is great. And then Stanton says DHL sent an email with rate increase, UPS's weekly podcast, and sharing images of appreciation from customers. So I thought that was, he compared DHL and said, hey, it's going up. But UPS has this podcast, and they're sharing images of the when people are meeting their drivers and stuff. So you can see the contrast there, and people will remember this after this stuff is over.
Yes, they will. Yeah,
sorry.
What's that? Go ahead, Madewell. I want to hear about Madewell. I like that.
So Madewell never has sales, or if they do, it's like 10%, 20%. They actually sent out an email that said, are you sitting down? Because this is very rare, which of course made me open the email. And then they had a 40% off sale, but on top of things that were already on sale. So it was 40% off regular items, but if something was already on sale, it was 40% off of that too. And guess what I did? I just shopped and made myself feel so much better.
And you were supporting the economy.
Yeah, but I thought that was great because it wasn't normal. It wasn't like Sephora just sent me an email today, which I love Sephora, but it was only 15% off. And I'm like, come on, Sephora. Madewell, who never does sales, is doing 40% off. This is paltry, 15%. I can't even open your app right now.
That's right. But I think, but you remember this, even though, I mean, even if you don't buy from them, you remember the sale, you remember how people were reaching out. And I thought it was like everybody copied and pasted this thing when it first came out. It's like our COVID-19 response. That was the subject line of, I don't know how many businesses. And I'm like, come on, do something different, or wait, like you said earlier, being silent for a while was probably smarter for most of those companies. They should have done that.
Well, not only that, but did you guys get emails from companies that you hadn't heard from in years in some cases, and now you're emailing? Like, they just went through their list and they sent the email to everyone. No one bothered to segment their list or see how active the user base was. They just sent it to every last person under the sun. And I'm like, I didn't even remember that I was signed up for your emails. Unsubscribe.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So we've talked a lot about email response, but I want to talk more about some specific social. So I have a really good bad example that I want to share, and we can share good examples too, but the bad ones are sometimes the most fun. So you probably heard this one. So David Geffen, who I don't even know what he's famous for, you can tell me, but apparently he has a whole lot of money, and he took a picture from a drone of his super yacht and talked about how he was isolating himself.
Yeah, he's an
influencer.
Yeah.
It's like, I am bleeding for you, buddy.
Pretty bad. I hadn't seen that. That's really bad.
It's precious. Yeah.
Or State Farm. Okay, so it was kind of right after this all broke. And so not all of the stay-at-home orders had quite come out yet. But State Farm on Twitter, I was constantly getting hit with this ad that was like, back to work, Jake from State Farm, blah, 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 something with a cup of coffee. And I was like, well, I'm on the East Coast and none of us can go to work right now. So I'm not really sure what you're talking about, but maybe you should turn this ad off.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was doing the April pin templates, it was really hard because all the pictures I wanted to use were just not relevant right now. Like, you can't have a picture of a group of friends and have it feel like something that's not terrifying.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like that's important too. Like, if you've had ads running forever on social, check your images.
Yes, make sure you're doing that. So Karina brings up this because I think this is a great something we need to discuss. She goes, I chose not to talk about COVID-19 in all my Instagram and Pinterest platforms. I wanted my followers to have their lives filled with love, beauty, and joy. So thoughts on that? Because I can totally understand that. So I started doing that little goofy little carving thing where I do that every week, just because it has nothing to do with anything. It's something relaxing. And so
but people love it.
I mean, I didn't think that would happen, but it did. And I think she's got a point there, is sometimes, because I'm actually going right when usually the announcement from the White House is going on. And I think that's why people watch it too. So I didn't mean to do that, but anyway, but I think that people want that. So there's this balance between, we need to acknowledge the situation, like people are struggling, but not do it in a way that's manipulative to, something. I saw an influencer, I can't remember who it was, but it said it was on an Instagram ad, and it says how to be coronaviral. And I went, ooh,
no.
Yeah. It was bad. And I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, there's a fine line. I think you have to follow your gut. What is most authentic to you and to your personal brand or to your overall brand. And if it feels authentic not to talk about it and to keep inspiring with love and joy, then do that. I talk about it here and there from a marketing perspective, because that's kind of where I'm sitting right now in my business. Personally, though, I haven't talked about it too much. I've maybe put out 1 to 2 posts in the past 3 months that have been personally specific about everything that's going on. So you just have to do what feels right to you. If it feels icky, if your gut says then don't do it. Some people don't have that icky button, apparently. David, whatever your name is.
That's the problem. So, because
ask your friends. Yes, if nothing feels icky, ask a friend.
Mom, should I post this? One of the things though too, so on another way is like, your podcast partner, Mark Schaefer, before he went under quarantine himself, he was getting on live and talking about this as a marketing perspective, how we should handle it, our messaging. And so he was talking about it, but he was doing it in a way that was helpful for companies. I mean, it was something that fit totally his brand. People look for him for wisdom. And so that worked. So I don't think people went, ooh, he's talking about that again. They were like listening, with their eyes wide open going.
But like me,
right.
If I would have tried to do that, it wouldn't have come off right because I'm not known in the same way that Mark is known. Mm-hmm. He's like the Mr. Rogers of marketing. We all want to sit down and listen to him, And
right.
So I'm not the Mrs. Rogers of marketing. So that wouldn't have worked for me, but that worked for him. But he also intimately knows his personal brand. So, I think he used his gut and his gut said, go for it. And he did. And it worked. If I would have tried that again, it just wouldn't have gone off the same way.
Right. This is a great,
but I think like what, okay, go ahead.
No, you think that what?
I think that what Mark did and what you're doing and what so many others are doing and even what we're trying to do at Tailwind with our Pinterest get-togethers on Wednesday afternoons is like providing a space for people to come and get information and get support and even have a little social connection. People really need that right now. So if you can think about like, what is it that I'm uniquely positioned to facilitate? And for me, it was kind of that Pinterest get-together thing. And people keep coming back, so we keep doing it. Or for Jeff, it was the carving, and people love it and keep coming back. For Mark, obviously, it was business and in these crazy times. So, like, what's your power there?
And on that note, I want to make sure that we bring up this comment because I think this is an example of it, and I think it's Jarmelina. She goes, as a children's author, I and a number of my author friends have created read aloud or creative writing activities on video to share with kids sheltering at home. I
love that.
That's awesome. And then Delia says this. She goes, on my social, I've been sharing 15-second videos of my fire pit as a moment of calm or photos of my garden or my dogs or spring flowers. I've stayed completely away from anything sales related. I've also shared ways I'm coping with anxiety in ways that don't cost anything. So they will remember that because the calming presence and also that you've been helpful. So I think that's awesome, Delia.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So we've kind of covered this, but in case you had more you wanted to add, Brooke, what are the biggest mistakes you see people making on social during a crisis?
I think the biggest thing is I'm all for the pause. I'm not here for the not pausing at all. Like people that just trudge forward. Like I realize we use a tool, and within that tool we have the ability to just like literally hit one pause button that pauses all content. But I just think like anytime, like I said, like the process for us, and this doesn't have to be your process, but I think it's pretty standard. If it affects our community or anybody in our community, or it affects society as a whole, hit that pause button and then take stock of what you have going out and figure out what stays, what goes, and what gets revamped. And then, maybe there's a whole slew of new messages around, the current situation. If you pause and you're quiet and you don't do anything, I think that's okay too. But my advice to you would be like, please don't stay on pause. Come back.
Right.
Yeah.
And don't forget, if you haven't been following along and you'd like to, now that we're halfway through, you can always go to bit.ly/TW Survive and Thrive, because this stuff in here is really, really good. And you want to use this as a tool if you're struggling with some of the things we're talking about today. It's a great resource. bit.ly/TW Survive and Thrive, all lowercase, all smashed together. So now I can't remember what I was going to say because I had to break in. So the whole messaging thing is, what would you tell somebody who's like, I've getting all this stuff back that this ad was inappropriate and I thought it was okay. So I have a circle of friends that I send stuff to. I'll send it. Elise and I play on here a lot, but I do treasure her advice and knowledge. And so I'll send her stuff, and I have other people that I send it to, say, hey, is this okay? But what if you don't, how do you, get those people how do you know what's right, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I actually have a real life example of that. We have a financial client who has actually upped spend quite a bit in this situation because they're finding, they're getting like 17% ROI, return on their ad spend right now. So of course they're charging ahead, and a few of their ads have gotten some negative feedback on them. And we look at every comment and we catalog them, and we kind of weigh the click-through rate and the conversion rate with the negative comment rate. So just because we get 1 or 2 negative comments on an advertising campaign doesn't mean that we automatically shut it down, because if it's working and the majority of people clicking through are actually clicking through and making a conversion, that ad is working. And I think you also have to keep in mind that there's always that camp online who has to say something and be nasty. We call them trolls.
Right.
So, you have to take everything everyone says with a grain of salt. I think also, this is my own personal way of dealing with it. I try to take the emotion out and look at the data, right? So the data is black and white. There's no emotion there. If I see there's 10 negative comments, but this ad is converting at a 4%, 5%, 7%, 17% rate, I'm going to ignore those 10 comments and I'm going to keep the ad running. That's taking the emotion out of it. And some business owners may disagree with me, and that's okay. That's just how I personally like to look at situations like that. If you, you may just say, hey, my threshold is 3 bad comments, 3 strikes and you're out. And that's fine. That's totally up to you. But if you're for every dollar you spent, if you were getting a $17 return,
right,
and you had 10 negative comments, you tell me what you would do right now.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. This is a great question from Joanne. She goes, I work for a corporation in the home improvement industry, and I'm responsible for our Pinterest account. We can't be personal in our Pinterest account at that level. What can we post that people would want to know about or care to post during this time? Elisa?
Okay. Well, searches and clicks and engagement on Pinterest are at record highs right now. So people want your content, and while people do like quotes on Pinterest, they're always popular. That's not mainly what people want. They want inspiration and information. So what you have is that. And with people, a lot of people anyway, stuck at home more often than usual, I cannot tell you how many of my friends are like painting their kitchens or redoing the bathroom. So that's what they want from you. I think it's perfectly appropriate not to address the current crisis, but give people what they really want and what is useful to them, because that's what your power is right now, to enable these projects that are going to help them to not be bored at home.
Yeah. So I could think of a pin like going doing a home redesign. What should I paint first? Because that might be a question that they're asking right now, or, how do I protect furniture while I'm painting, or something that's a real question that they're asking themselves because they're at home and they're working on all this stuff. What if I find a dust bunny that's 500 pounds? What do I do with it? That kind of thing.
I keep it. Name it George.
That's right.
That's right.
No, but also it's still spring. It's still spring in the United States. So, and a lot of people are doing DIY stuff, DIY stuff in the garden. So like what to plant for spring, or how to create your own backyard garden, or how to make something, recipes, right? Everybody's like making bread right now. Right. So like, how do I make bread with what I have in my pantry?
Right. I can't find a bread maker anywhere. Yeah.
No,
are you serious?
We can't. Or a bidet.
Yes, exactly. I don't use them together, but yeah.
No, you're right. And and think about search words that beginners would search. So when you're thinking about painting, like easy, simple, because a lot of people are doing this for the very first time. They've never had time before, or maybe never had inclination to do it before. So you'll see, like, if you do get the Pinterest toolkit, you'll see some of those search terms, and they're very, very beginner. And also yeastless bread recipes are up.
Right.
Like you said.
Well,
Caroline, you can't buy yeast either.
Yeah, you can. I tried. Delia says how to create
have someone give you some.
Yeah, I got to go steal it from my mom. So how to create a calm oasis in your home. That's a great one. That's a great example right there. So yeah.
Stress relief, that the searches for that are up like
yes.
4-fold or something. It's insane.
That makes sense. Like how to create a meditation corner in your small space or something. Yeah.
So Denise says, yes, I've been given the challenge to make the perfect baguette on my 6th try. Oh, that sounds like a fun challenge.
Go, right Denise, there. Go. Yeah, he picked her. It didn't happen.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
So, okay. Go ahead. Next question, Elisa.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about what some brands are doing that's really good and helpful. We've talked about a lot of email stuff, but like, what are people seeing on social that's really cool? I saw the Zappos Facebook post where it was like, ask me anything, and they got a great response from that. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys know Rich Brooks, but he's been doing a lot of videos, and he brought his father on, who talked about like some well-being tips. I want to say his like father was like a psychologist or something like that. But anyways, I just thought, it was such a heartwarming thing to see him start to do all of these videos that were just related around helping people. And he's really been, kind of helping a lot of people in the community, his clients, his past clients. He's gone on the local news there in Maine and done some segments on, how to handle the current situation. So I think, again, I know we keep saying it, but like if you can figure out how to add value to the current climate, pertinent to what you do, obviously not going totally off the rails, but pertinent to what you do, you can get picked up by local media. I mean, think about this. Journalists right now can only talk about coronavirus. So if you can pick up speed through social by being helpful and adding value pertaining to what you do, you could get picked up by local media too, because that's all they're allowed to talk about. So that's something to think about.
Right. That's a great point. So we talked about, because we had some great examples of we don't want to say anything because we want to make it a peaceful, easy place. But then what if we have stuff? So I'm thinking about specifically our friend David Brandt, Elisa, who had to close. He had like a paint where people would come in and he'd help them learn how to paint, and they'd paint stuff. And so he had to close because of the situation. But he moved everything to online. Like he's going to teach you how to do it online, and he'll send you the stuff to do it. And he's had all these pretty good signups right now. And so, but he's talking about, hey, if you're stuck at home, why don't you learn a new skill? So some people are leaning into it and saying, hey, I have this thing that's going to help you during this time. Really, really, how should the messaging be for that type of company?
I think you have to assess your brand and your personal brand and understand how you can lean into it. So we were actually talking about this earlier on a marketing mastermind of mine, but a local plumber had to shut down, and funnily enough, it was with Rich Brooks. Rich had mentioned to him, hey, why don't you offer free online consultations? And funnily enough, someone had called later that week and said that the water pressure in their house was down. So he videoed the whole thing, the plumber did, and walked them through what to do and how to go through and fix everything. Now he's going to put that on his site and talk about how they're offering these free consultations for, things around your home that a plumber would normally help you with. Think about that. He's offering it for free right now. He's moving it online. He's leaning into what's happening. But man, when this is over and you're allowed to have a plumber back in your house, who is the plumber you're going to think of? And also, who do you think the local media is going to talk about? Right. This local plumber. I mean, it's such a fabulous idea. Not every company can do that, but if you can, you should definitely try.
So following up on that, so one of the things I've noticed a lot about social media is it's now becoming social media again. There's social stuff going on like I can't remember like this stuff. Like people are having virtual parties where they get together and talk around a virtual water cooler. So not to be, a slimy marketer, because we always try to make those things dirty, is, take the pretty things and corrupt them in some way. But do you think there's a place for marketers to help people find community and build their own community? I mean, because I'm just seeing communities spring up, and that's a buzzword right now, but people, they're flocking to it. You mentioned like people are getting record numbers of hits on their websites and their blog posts and their videos because people are at home. So how can we lean into the community aspect that's really going on right now?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I mean, for us, communities always number one, or being customer centric is always number one. But let's be honest, most brands, once they get going and they find that they have a successful path to revenue, the customer falls down the ladder of what's important. And I think if you were to put your customer first right now, what would that look like? And, our advice for our clients is to focus on conversational marketing. Remember how big of a buzzword that was like 3 years ago, 2017 or so, like conversational marketing was everywhere. But I think if you turn back to conversational marketing now and you think about how you can enter the conversational marketing space with marketing and brand awareness, with sales, with customer care or customer service, and you really focus on being customer centric, you can do just about anything. I would be hard pressed to come to me if you go and look at that and you can't figure it out, because I bet you I could help you. I just don't see how any brand, any company could not look at conversational marketing, again, whether it's marketing and brand awareness, sales, or even like customer service, and not come away with a win right now. I don't see it.
Yeah.
I have a little trick for writing that I feel like when people think, well, how am I going to write that message? I feel like that becomes a stopping point where they're like, oh, I'm not a good writer, or I'm not going to do it right. But I feel like it's really easy if you can get yourself in the mindset of, all right, the customer is in front of me right now. I'm thinking about what they need and what I have. How would I speak to them? What words would I use in conversation with them as a person right in front of me? And just write that down. It's so easy.
Yeah, I love that. And also like it's like going on a date, right? Like what questions would you ask? Like, well, I'm trying to let's go with like a toothbrush company.
Where's your face mask is what I would ask.
What kind of toothbrush do you like? Do you like the old school kind, or do you prefer like an electric toothbrush? Do you like hard, medium, or soft? Oh, you like medium and you like old school. Huh. Do you like the grippy bendy one, or do you like the one that like, has the like little color thing where it comes down so that you know when to replace it? I mean, there's a million questions you can ask, and we're talking about toothbrushes. So make it about them, like think of, if you put yourself in their shoes, if you were buying a toothbrush, what questions would you be asking?
And I think,
so are you suggesting they ask that right, like on Facebook?
Yeah, I mean, I think they can ask it right on social. The great thing, like you were saying earlier about Twitter, is the conversation's already happening on social. It's easier to find on Twitter because of that open API, but the conversation's there. If you go Twitter has an advanced search. It's free to use. Go do some keyword research on, again, brand, industry, competitors, and see where those conversations are happening. You don't even have to join them. You can just get that information. But then when you're brave enough and you've written down some of those questions, like Elisa said, go back through, join the conversation. And again, it could just be data collection. You're not trying to sell anything. You could just get a bunch of information and come back. And I think you'll get braver and braver each time you go out, and then join the conversation and see if you can lure people to your landing page or to your website or to your free consult or whatever it may be, or to your free Survive and Thrive worksheet,
Way to segue. Thank you for that.
Nicely done, Jeff.
I know she can take over anytime. She has to work with Mark all the time, so I understand it. So, but what I think a lot of what we've been saying this whole time is that businesses a lot of times have kind of getting in the rut of they're talking at customers, and during this time we kind of need to talk with and together with customers. And so, yeah, you can tweet that out, Elisa, if you want. So I thought that was because yeah, Lila says this. She goes, it seems at times people want to be distracted from what's happening, but I want to be cautious here, provide something helpful, genuine, but also be hopeful. And I think that is a great thing to do. Denise says this too. She goes, I'm a web designer and have really struggled with how to promote my services during these times. I'm so passionate about supporting small businesses and helping them thrive, so I decided it would be an interesting idea to interview several of them to learn about their journey to business ownerships. We all have such fascinating stories to tell. and they will remember that. They will remember that.
That you're doing it, Denise. I don't know if you've read Mark Schaefer's book, The Marketing Rebellion, but he says the most human company wins in that book. And that is exactly what you are doing. You are telling stories that have nothing to do with selling your services, but it's going to get you all of this great attention because you're bringing the human element to your personal brand and what it is that you do. And I think that's exactly what we're saying.
Mm-hmm. And people are wanting to see behind the brands right now. We talked about the carving thing. We talked about Mark Schaefer, doing these little, mini keynotes or something. But also, like Chris Brogan's cooking breakfast and talking in the morning. It's stuff like that where you're seeing these people you may have looked up or these brands that you've, never really known the person behind them, and they're coming online. And people will connect with that. We've said this because we've done live video for so long and so much that this is the why we do it, because we can connect with people. We can bring them up on screen and talk with them. So brands that embrace this ability now that people want to see behind the scenes, you're just being you, and people remember that.
And behind the scenes content, Jeff, is like one of the most high performing pieces of content ever. So even in a non-crisis situation, when we're putting together our media mix for our clients, and a media mix, just to back up, is, what's the mix of content that we're going to share out? We're going to do this many promotional posts. We have this many events to talk about. We have these 3 sales. Behind the scenes is something we always encourage our clients to put out, because people, in all of our verticals, it is the most engaged with type of content that every client has. And right now, in situations like these, it is double, quadruple more engaged with than the other types of content. So think about ways you can find some of that interesting behind the scenes content to promote personally, but also as your brand. There's plenty of ways to do it. We have a worksheet that we share with clients. It's not located anywhere. I'm thinking this is my thinking face. But if you ping me, I'll send it to you. But it's essentially like, how can you find some behind the scenes content that you've done? And the example I gave earlier about the wedding planner, Lauren, using those past events to spark joy right now, that's still behind the scenes content. It's just her work. She also does like little boomerang dance videos at every single one of the events that she works at. And she shares those. That's behind the scenes. And everybody looks forward to seeing Lauren and her team doing these silly little dance boomerangs at all of the events that they have. So, we need to share that link too. So important. Make sure you figure out a way to share that.
And it's so funny because, and that's what people interact with. So like, for example, I need a haircut like nobody's business. And so I like take a picture on Instagram on the first thing I get up, and I look like Kramer from Seinfeld. And I'm like, stay home day 23. I need a haircut. # I need a haircut. And I get more stupid engagement on that thing than I do on anything else. And I'm like, I don't get it. But people, and that I want to bring up this point because I was talking with Chalene Johnson on another show, and if you don't know who she is, she's huge on Instagram, Beachbody and all this stuff. But she was saying now the stuff that's working for her is not the Instagram Photoshop, vibrant color stuff. It's the raw thing. And so this is great for right now because, half of us probably don't have pants on. You don't know that, but we could actually, because the whole fashion thing is, nobody's doing that anymore. But this is a time where you could just get over your embarrassment and show like, this is my desk right now. My kid just threw, Cheerios all over it. I'm stuck at home. People want to connect and they want to go, oh yeah, my kid just spilled, Cheerios down all over the couch. So this is a place to connect right here with this stuff.
Yeah. And I have a tip too on Facebook. Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, I was going to say on Facebook, we always share that behind the scenes. Like we know it's going to get crazy engagement post. And if you're sharing 2 posts per day, share your like promotional or like, hey, check out this new blog post or whatever after this as the second post. You've posted that behind the scenes content that got all of the comments and the crazy engagement, because Facebook's algorithm, the way it works is if you get all of that crazy engagement, it's going to show more of your content to people, the content that you post thereafter. So like your second post that day or the next day, if you make it a blog post or a promotional post, it should get more reach.
Yeah, great point. Elise, were you going to say something?
Yeah. Well, so on a whim, a couple weeks ago, I decided to go live while I was painting in my kitchen. And I was just going to do one painting. I had it all prepped and ready to go, so the boring part was done. And people just showed up. And I was on there for 2.5 hours just talking to people and letting people tell me like what color or what technique to use. And it was really fun. And I feel like even if I were trying to promote my business, which I wasn't, I was just having fun and connecting with friends. I feel like that's the kind of thing people want. So why not use that for your business too?
Yeah. I mean, because you are your brand behind. I mean, people want to connect with you. I think it's genius.
I love that point too. Oh, sorry. The psychology behind that is we're in a time where we can't control anything, right? Mm-hmm. So what do we want to do? Well, I'm super controlling. So what do I want to do with control things? And
you want to tell me okay.
Yeah, I love that idea. The psychology behind that is huge. If you could go live and have people name your next product or tell you what to paint or whatever it may be, I think you're onto something. Because when things are so out of control, it's human nature to want to control something. So that entertainment value of being able to control what's happening is fabulous. I love that. I'm writing that. I'm stealing that.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah.
Because I didn't do it on purpose. It just seemed like a fun thing to do. But I feel like it made them feel more a part of the thing too. And somebody is buying one of those paintings, which is not what I intended. I was just doing it for fun.
Yeah. I think this going forward, we can't put this back in the bag. I think brands and marketers and influencers or whatever, they're going to have to show this and they're going to have to do this. They're not just going to be able to post a YouTube video and say that's it. They're going to have to connect with their audience because now we expect it from people. And so if you're not really going out of your way, and Brooke has talked about this the entire time, to connect and build community, now's the time to start. I mean, no one can see if you're wearing pants or not, or pajamas or funny kitten slippers, but embrace this time, use this time to really connect with your audience. And we are getting to the end of our time together. I want to make sure that you guys do not forget to get this great download at bit.ly/TW Survive and Thrive, bit.ly/TW Survive and Thrive.
Okay.
But Brooke, I want to have a chance for people to find out where we can find you. What were you going to say? I'm just rolling right over you, Lisa. What are you trying to say?
Stop it. I just want one more question, and that is, okay, so we mentioned if you're going to do a promotion or a blog post after, you want to do it after something that gets great engagement. Promotions. What takes a promotion from icky and opportunistic to welcome and wanted? Like, how do you know how not to be icky?
Yeah, I think you need to look at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There are certain things we still need to buy right now as consumers. So anything that we need, food, water, shelter, clothes. Well, maybe we don't need clothes, but
toilet paper.
Only half as many as before.
Toilet paper. Yeah. These are things that I think anyone would appreciate a discount on. These like car commercials that I'm seeing that are like, we know you need a car right now, and because of what's going on, we're going to defer 2 payments. I'm like, who is buying a car right now? Maybe you do need a car, but it just felt off. And my general rule of thumb on discounts is I don't do it because you're automatically devaluing your service if you discount something. But if you're being helpful, like GoToMeeting has offered a free work from home kit for anyone who's working from home for the first time, plus a free license of their service or something like that. That's helpful. Yes, eventually you're going to have to pay for that service, but like it doesn't feel icky because it is a need, because more people are working from home and they need a system to work from home on. So yeah, that would be my advice there.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So usually I let you have the last word, Lisa, but I'm not going to today because you cut me off. So, Brooke, where could we find out more about you and your services?
Yes, you can find out about me or B Squared Media at bsquared.media. It's a .com, so it's .media, bsquared.media. Or you can just Google Brooke Sellas, BROOKESELLAS. It's like the easiest Greek name on the planet. I think I'm the only Brooke Sellas on the planet. But if you Google me or go visit B Squared Media, you'll be able to find all of my social sites and definitely hit me up with any questions that you have or how I can help.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Brooke. We want to have you on again because this was a lot of fun. And we
Thanks,
always like
guys.
talking with you. Yeah. So with that, we'll say goodbye to you guys. Make sure you tune in next Thursday this Thursday when we're talking with Kate All from
Simple Pin
Media. That's right. I'm sorry. Kate All from Simple Pin Media. Can't let you have the last word. Okay. We'll see you guys next time. Bye now.